How each zodiac sign emotionally sabotages love. Love is a complex feeling rooted in emotions. However, these emotions, if not identified and checked, especially the harmful ones, can affect the overall experience of love. But before we begin, it's noteworthy to point out that not all individuals in a given zodiac sign are the same. The presences of other signs, and planetary involvement on each individual birth chart, and Deccan in a given zodiac sign, sets each person's apart. However, this will resonate with you at the least, on the average and on the maximum depending on your Deccan and planetary position in your birth chart. That said, let's begin with Aries. Aries, you emotionally sabotage love by being intensity addicted. Your psychological patterns are seen through impulsiveness, fear of emotional stillness, and low tolerance for vulnerability. You equate love with adrenaline. You chase intensity because it distracts you from emotional discomfort. You're wired for action, not reflection, so when love asks you to slow down, sit still, and feel, you panic. You sabotage love by mistaking emotional depth for emotional drag. You want loyalty, but you don't always offer emotional safety. In other words, Aries, you are too fast, too hot. You mistake passion for connection. You believe love must be dramatic to feel real. You push hard, then pull away when things settle, confusing peace with boredom. You fall hard and fast. You chase love like it's a challenge. But when things slow down, you get bored. You want someone to match your fire, but you don't always stick around long enough to build something real. You leave before love gets deep. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Aries. Do the necessary self-work around these truths to experience love in its depth and entirety. Taurus. Taurus, you emotionally sabotage your love by being stability obsessed. Your psychological patterns are seen through avoidant attachment, emotional rigidity, and fear of vulnerability. You crave predictability because unpredictability once hurt you. You learn to survive by staying still, by not rocking the boat. But love isn't preserved through silence, it's grown through discomfort. You sabotage love by mistaking emotional avoidance for peace. You stay loyal to patterns that no longer serve you and call it commitment. But love without growth becomes emotional stagnation. In other words, Taurus, you're stuck in comfort. You mistake emotional avoidance for peace. You like peace, but most times you don't bring peace, you avoid the truth to keep calm. You stay in habits that feel safe, even when they're hurting the relationship. You don't talk about what's wrong, you hope it'll fix itself. You fixate on the reaction rather than your actions. But love needs growth, not just loyalty. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Taurus. Learn to face discomfort and reflect in a way that repairs, not defends. You don't need to lie about little things to self-preserve. Let go of habits that hinder your growth. Lasting love equals growth. Embrace change. Grow in love, because real connection thrives in evolution, not stagnation. Gemini. Gemini, you emotionally sabotage your love by being an emotional escapist. Your psychological patterns are seen through your disassociation, fear of emotional overwhelm, and cognitive overcompensation. You learned early that talking about feelings was safer than feeling them. So you became a master communicator, but not always a present partner. You sabotage love by staying in your head when your heart is being called. You connect quickly, but rarely anchor. You're not afraid of love, you're afraid of what it might reveal if you stayed long enough to feel it fully. In other words, Gemini, you're here but not really. You mistake stimulation for intimacy. Talks endlessly, but rarely listens deeply. Believes being interesting is enough, while emotional consistency goes missing. You disappear when things get too real, then return like nothing happened. You intellectualize emotions to avoid feeling them and flirt with depth but rarely stay long enough to build it. You're fun, smart, and easy to talk to. But when things get serious, you pull away. You talk about feelings, but don't always feel them. You're present in the moment, but not always in the relationship. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Gemini. Stay long enough to feel it. That's where the real magic begins. Cancer. Cancer, you emotionally sabotage your love through a caretaker identity. Your psychological pattern is seen through codependency, emotional enmeshment, and self-worth tied to being needed. You learn to earn love by being useful. You give, nurture, and absorb, but often at the cost of your own emotional clarity. You sabotage love by overfunctioning in relationships, then resenting the imbalance. You confuse being needed with being loved. And when your care isn't reciprocated, you retreat into emotional martyrdom. In other words, Cancer, you love too hard. You mistakes being needed for being loved. You absorbs others' pain to feel useful and believes sacrifice equals devotion, even when it erases their own needs. You overgive, then resent. And confuse emotional enmeshment with closeness. You stay too long, hoping love will heal what boundaries should have ended. You give everything and take care of your partner like it's your job. But sometimes you forget about yourself. You stay even when it hurts, hoping love will fix it. You think being needed means being loved. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Cancer. Care for yourself first. That's how you teach others to love you right. Leo. Leo, you emotionally sabotage your love through validation dependence. Your psychological patterns are seen through ego defense, fear of rejection, and performance-based self-worth. You learn to shine to be safe. You perform confidence, but underneath is a deep fear of being ordinary or unseen. You sabotage love by seeking admiration instead of intimacy. You want to be chosen, but you rarely show the parts of you that feel unlovable. You crave loyalty, but test it through pride. You want to be loved for who you are, but you rarely let people see it. In other words, Leo, you're loud but guarded. You mistakes admiration for intimacy. You performs love instead of living it and believes being adored is proof of connection, while vulnerability stays hidden. You want to be chosen, but fear being truly seen. You shine in public, but struggle in private. You crave loyalty, but test it through ego. You show up big, gifts, attention, loyalty. But you hide the parts of you that feel unsure. You want someone to love the real you, but you don't always let them see it. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Leo. Let someone love the quiet parts too. That's where real intimacy begins. Virgo. Virgo, you emotionally sabotage your love through control disguised as care. Your psychological patterns are seen through perfectionism, hypervigilance, and emotional suppression. You learn that love had to be earned through being useful. You fix, manage, and organize emotions like a checklist. You sabotage love by making it conditional, only showing warmth when things feel right. You struggle to sit in emotional messiness, and your partner feels like a project instead of a person. In other words, Virgo, you're loving with a manual. You mistakes fixing for loving. Tries to optimize emotions like a checklist and believes love should be earned through perfection, while messiness feels unsafe. You micromanage feelings and withhold affection until things are right. You confuse criticism with connection and try to perfect the relationship instead of being present in it. You want things to make sense before you let yourself feel. You care deeply, but you show it through control. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Virgo. Let go of the need to fix. Love isn't a task, it's a feeling. Libra. Libra, you emotionally sabotage your love through approval seeking. Your psychological patterns are seen through people-pleasing, conflict avoidance, and identity diffusion. You learned that being liked felt safer than being honest. You bend to keep the peace, even when it breaks you inside. You sabotage love by silencing your needs to avoid conflict. You fear being alone, so you settle for being misunderstood. In other words, Libra, you're too nice for your own good. You mistakes harmony for health. Avoids conflict to stay liked, not loved, and believes love means never rocking the boat, even when the silence is sinking it. You say yes when you mean maybe and lose yourself in the name of us. You fear being alone more than being misunderstood and smile through discomfort to keep things smooth. But love without honesty is just performance. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Libra. Speak up. The right person won't leave when you show your truth. Scorpio. Scorpio, you emotionally sabotage your love through emotional gatekeeping. Your psychological patterns are seen through hypervigilance, fear of betrayal, and emotional withholding. You protect yourself with secrecy and control. You crave deep connection but test people before trusting them. You sabotage love by locking your heart behind walls and expecting someone else to break them down. In other words, Scorpio, you're deep but distant. You mistake secrecy for safety. Tests loyalty instead of trusting it and believes love must be proven through endurance, while intimacy is locked behind walls. You punish with silence, and protect with mystery. You love hard, but only once someone passes every test. You crave depth and want intimacy, but you fear exposure. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Scorpio. Let someone in before they're exhausted trying to reach you. Sagittarius. Sagittarius, you emotionally sabotage your love through freedom fetishism. Your psychological patterns are seen through avoidant attachment, fear of emotional weight, and novelty seeking. You run when things get too quiet, too close, too real. You sabotage love by treating stability like a trap. You want connection, but only if it doesn't ask you to stay. In other words, Sagittarius, you're always halfway gone. You mistakes detachment for independence. Escapes emotional depth to stay unburdened and believes love should never feel heavy, even when it's asking for presence. You run when things get too still and confuse commitment with confinement. You love the idea of love, but resist the work of it. You disappear when emotions get heavy, then come back when it's light again. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Sagittarius. Stay. Not because you have to, but because it's worth it. Capricorn. Capricorn, you emotionally sabotage your love through transactional love. Your psychological patterns are seen through emotional suppression, performance-based worth, and fear of vulnerability. You show up with loyalty, plans, and effort, but often forget emotional warmth. You sabotage love by offering structure without softness. You stay busy to avoid vulnerability. In other words, Capricorn, you're reliable but closed off. You mistake structure for security. Builds futures but forgets the present and believes loyalty is enough while emotional warmth gets outsourced to ambition. You show up with plans, not presence, and measure love in effort, not emotion. You avoid vulnerability by staying busy and think being dependable is enough. You build futures, but forget to feel the present and love through effort, but love also needs emotion. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Capricorn. Open up. Let someone love the parts of you that don't have a plan. Aquarius. Aquarius, you emotionally sabotage your love through a detached idealist lens. Your psychological patterns are seen through emotional distancing, intellectualization, and fear of emotional chaos. You understand people deeply but rarely let them understand you. You sabotage love by staying in your head when your heart is being called. You fear emotional messiness, so you hover above it. In other words, Aquarius, you're smart but far away. You mistakes insight for intimacy. Understands everyone, connects with few and believes love should be logical, while emotions are left unread. You observe instead of engage and fear emotional chaos, so you stay above it. You offer perspective, not presence, and connect through ideas, not feelings. You offer insight, not intimacy. You don't mean to be cold, you're just afraid of drowning in emotion. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Aquarius. Come down from your mind. Love lives in the mess. Pisces. Pisces, you emotionally sabotage your love through fantasy-bound behavior. Your psychological patterns are seen through escapism, idealization, and emotional fusion. You fall for potential, not the person. You rewrite red flags as poetry. You sabotage love by loving what could be instead of what is. In other words, Pisces, you're dreaming through it. You mistakes potential for reality. Falls for the dream, not the person, and believes love should feel magical, while red flags are rewritten as poetry. You romanticize pain and avoid confrontation by escaping into imagination. You give everything, until you disappear and want magic, but sometimes ignore the truth. You confuse emotional intensity with compatibility. This is how you emotionally sabotage your love, Pisces. Stay grounded. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. If this resonates with you, like, comment and subscribe to Cosmic Truth Zero for more astronomical truths.